Have you ever caught yourself, like, finishing someone's sentence in your head while their mouth is literally still moving?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
All the time.
Right. Or maybe, you're in a conversation, they're sharing a story, and before they've even hit the period at the end of their thought, you've already formulated this brilliant, perfectly articulated response.
Yeah, and society actually rewards that kind of conversational speed. Like, it reads as competence.
Exactly. We usually pat ourselves on the back for it. We call it being a good, fast, engaged conversationalist. You're sharp, you're keeping the rhythm going.
But our source material today suggests that this efficiency might actually be something, well, much darker.
Yeah. So welcome to the deep dive. Let's lay out what we're working with right up front. Today, we're analyzing the single, honestly, profoundly unsettling essay titled The Same Closing.
It really is unsettling, yeah.
And the mission for our deep dive is to explore the text's core, rather shocking argument, which is that there's this hidden biological link between how we listen to others and how we hide from ourselves.
Right. The author is basically arguing that those conversational shortcuts we take, they aren't about communication at all. They are defense mechanisms.
Defense mechanisms, and if we can understand how that mechanism works, it offers this incredible shortcut to ultimate self-awareness. Like, if you want to know what inconvenient truths you're actively suppressing in your own life right now.
You don't need a month-long silent retreat.
Exactly. You literally just have to look at how you treat the people talking to you today. So, okay, let's unpack this. Because the text starts by fundamentally redefining what dismissiveness actually looks like in everyday life.
Right, because we tend to think of dismissiveness as being a jerk,
Right.
like putting your hand in someone's face or rolling your eyes.
Yeah, the cartoon version of dismissiveness.
Exactly. But the reality is much stealthier. The central thesis of this essay is that listening to another person and listening to your own undefended truth, they aren't two separate skills.
Which is wild to think about.
It is. We treat them like they are. We put interpersonal communication in one bucket and, internal self-reflection in another. But biologically, they are the exact same nervous system event, just pointed in two different directions.
The exact same nervous system event. Let's break that down for a second because, we throw around terms like nervous system a lot. Give me an ELA 5, explain it to me like a 5. How does my biology get involved when I'm just chatting with a friend at a coffee shop?
Okay, let's look at how the brain processes a threat. The human brain, specifically the amygdala, evolved to protect us from physical danger. A tiger jumping out of the bushes.
Right, the classic fight or flight.
Exactly.
Yeah.
When it senses a threat, it triggers a physical response. Blood pumps faster, muscles tense, you prepare to fight or flee. The problem is, our modern brain cannot readily distinguish between a physical threat to your body and an emotional threat to your worldview.
Wait, really? So if someone tells me a story that challenges my core beliefs, my brain rings the exact same alarm bell as if a tiger just walked into the room?
The exact same bell. The alarm rings, and the body initiates a shutdown protocol. And this is why the essay notes that dismissiveness rarely announces itself as contempt. It dresses up as efficiency.
Wow.
Think about the physical examples the author gives. You might feel a small, very real sense of relief, like a literal loosening right in your jaw or a dropping of tension in your chest the moment someone says something you disagree with.
I read that and immediately thought, well, why would disagreement trigger physical relief? But through the lens of a biological threat, it makes perfect sense. Disagreement hands you a clean exit.
Right, it's an escape hatch.
The moment you categorize their perspective as wrong, you don't have to stay present in the vulnerability of the unknown anymore. You can just retreat to the safety of preparing your counterargument.
You've neutralized the threat by invalidating the source. It's so efficient. And another symptom the text highlights is our cultural obsession with fixing things.
Oh yeah, the fixing.
We treat other people's pain as like a math problem to be resolved quickly, rather than a state of being to be witnessed slowly.
Because witnessing without fixing makes us feel completely useless. I was thinking about this, and it's so much like the predictive text feature on our smartphones.
Oh, that's a great comparison.
Right. Like you type 3 letters, and the phone guesses the rest of the word to save you a microsecond. And we do that with human beings. A friend comes over, starts venting about a problem at work, and within 10 seconds, we auto-complete their emotion.
We think, I know where this story is going.
Exactly. Here is a 3-step action plan to solve it.
Because we prioritize our own comfort over their expression. To the guarded nervous system, feeling useless in the face of someone else's unresolved pain is actually less bearable than the pain itself.
So we interrupt.
We redirect. We steer the conversation back onto solid ground that we already know how to control.
And the tragedy of that predictive text approach is that we miss the nuance entirely. Like the author points out, we might be able to repeat our friends' words perfectly back to them to prove we were listening, but we have absolutely no idea what it actually cost them to say those words out loud. We optimize for speed over connection.
Which leads to the quietest and honestly most devastating consequence of all this hyper-efficient behavior. People simply stop bringing you things.
Oof, that part was a gut punch. Because we think we're being engaging by predicting or, helpful by fixing. But the essay argues that the final symptom of dismissiveness isn't a blowout argument, it's silence.
The people in your life slowly learn that their offerings don't land. They bounce off something hard in you, and they come back slightly reshaped into your opinion of the situation.
Wow.
And it's rarely a conscious decision on their part. Their bodies just register that the space isn't safe for raw material.
Bounced off something hard in you.
Yeah.
That is such a striking image. So, okay, if being altered or moved by someone else's truth feels like a literal biological threat, what exactly are we protecting? There must be some internal structure we're terrified of knocking down if we listen too closely.
There is. The text calls this the architecture of identity. Our sense of being enough in the world is rarely just a calm, inherent state of being. For most of us, it's this heavy scaffolding propped up by rigid pillars.
Like what kind of pillars?
Well, you might have a pillar built around being the smartest person in the room, or the one who's always needed, or the glue that holds the family together. Some people even build a pillar around being the most, evolved or spiritually awake person in their friend group.
Wait, I'm thinking about this in practice. If my entire self-worth, my architecture, is built on being the fixer, and my partner comes to me and says, I don't want your advice, I just need you to listen to me cry, they're just giving me communication feedback.
No, not at all.
By refusing my help, they are literally making my identity obsolete in that moment. Is that why the body panics?
Yes. The panic is entirely logical when you look at it that way. The nervous system registers the partner's request not as a preference, but as an eviction notice for your current self.
An eviction notice? That's terrifying.
It is, and this is why the essay clarifies a massive misconception. The truth and the feeling of being enough are never actually in conflict.
Really? Because, it constantly feels like they're at war.
Right, but the conflict is actually between the truth and the current architecture, the specific identity currently running the show. You cannot integrate the new truth that you are sometimes unhelpful if your entire survival strategy requires you to be the ultimate helper.
Okay, that makes sense.
The text puts it beautifully. Nothing rebuilds itself before something is willing to come down. Integrating a new truth requires a demolition phase.
Nothing rebuilds itself before something is willing to come down. So to really listen to you, I have to be willing to let my scaffolding fall. I have to accept the risk of not being the expert, not being in control, not knowing the outcome. That is profoundly terrifying.
Which is exactly why the mind reaches for dismissiveness. It is a brilliant, risk-free counterfeit of listening. You take in the auditory data of their words, but you quietly refuse entry to the consequences of those words.
Oh, wow. So you can walk away asking yourself, was I polite? Did I offer a solution? Instead of asking the really dangerous question, did anything inside me actually move?
Exactly.
And this transition brings us to the core mission of our deep dive. Because if our nervous system acts this aggressively like auto-completing sentences, looking for exit hatches, deploying action plans to shut down threats from the outside, what happens when the threat is a thought originating inside our own head?
The defense strategies are identical. They're
Yeah.
just internalized.
So how does this same mechanism shut down our own inconvenient truths?
Well, the refusal to be moved by another person's truth is the exact same muscle as the refusal to be moved by your own. And the most dangerous part is that internal suppression doesn't look the way we think it does.
Right. It isn't obvious denial. It's not standing in a burning room saying, this is fine.
Yeah. According to the text, internal suppression primarily looks like motion.
Motion. I absolutely love this concept, but let's give it a mechanical metaphor so we can really see how it operates. It's like turning the radio up in your car so you don't have to hear the engine rattling. The motion of busyness or rapid thought is just loud static designed to drown out the check engine light flashing on your dashboard.
That is the perfect metaphor. The essay provides this stunning list of what this motion looks like in practice. It looks like suddenly remembering 3 urgent emails you need to send at the exact moment an uncomfortable feeling begins to surface.
Oh, I've done that.
We all have. It looks like reaching for certainty incredibly fast, because certainty feels like solid ground, and ground feels like safety.
One of the examples that hit me the hardest was intellectualizing a feeling into a framework.
Yes, it's the ultimate defense mechanism for highly analytical people.
Let's put the listener in a hypothetical here. Imagine you receive a piece of really harsh feedback at work. It hurts. It threatens your pillar of competence.
Right.
Instead of actually sitting at your desk and feeling the sting of failure or the fear of inadequacy, you immediately build a 5-point mental spreadsheet detailing exactly why your boss's communication style is fundamentally flawed and structurally inefficient. You haven't processed the feeling at all. You've just buried it in logic.
You've successfully converted a raw, unpredictable emotion into a manageable thesis statement. We do this because a framework is something we can master. A raw feeling is something that might master us.
Ah, that's so true.
The nervous system is keeping you in motion, analyzing, plotting, structuring, so you don't have to experience the vulnerability of the raw data.
The author also makes a fascinating observation about anger. They describe anger arriving suspiciously on time, like right when a softer, more humbling truth, maybe grief or the realization that you were wrong, is about to breach the surface, suddenly you just get furious.
Anger is a high-energy state. It immediately restores a sense of power and forward momentum, whereas a softer truth demands stillness and surrender.
Right.
The nervous system learned long ago that certain humbling truths arrived before they were survivable, so it updated its threat assessment program to keep you angry instead of broken.
Okay, wait, I want to challenge one of the examples of motion the text brings up because it feels a little counterintuitive. The essay mentions spiritual language used as armor. It talks about reframing a painful experience as a lesson or as growth. But hold on, isn't finding the lesson the literal definition of emotional maturity? Why is the author calling personal growth a form of suppression?
It's a great question. The distinction here is entirely about timing. The author isn't claiming that growth or finding meaning in pain is inherently bad. It becomes armor when you reframe the pain as a lesson half a second too early.
Oh, I see. If you're the type of person who listens to deep dive analytical content like this, and if you're listening right now, you probably are, you are highly susceptible to this specific trap.
Oh, absolutely.
We love buying a self-help book the morning after a breakup. We love
Yes.
turning our messy, humiliating pain into a neat little lesson learned takeaway before we have even allowed ourselves to cry about the loss.
It's predictive text applied to your own soul. You skip the messy, disorienting middle of the human experience to fast forward to the polished, evolved conclusion.
You bypass the grief.
You bypass the necessary grief of what the lesson actually cost you. But again, the text remains deeply compassionate about this behavior. It explicitly states this isn't a character flaw or weakness. It's just an outdated biological threat assessment system desperately trying to keep you safe from the pain of collapse.
But because the system is outdated, it ends up trapping us. These internal mechanisms, like the intellectualizing, the spiritual bypassing, and the external mechanisms, the interrupting, the fixing, they don't exist in a vacuum.
No, they feed each other.
They create a continuous feedback loop that fundamentally redefines the reality we live in.
The loop is where the true cost of dismissiveness becomes really visible. It functions like a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah.
The more your own internal truth gets suppressed and intellectualized, the less practice your nervous system gets at staying present in the face of discomfort.
It's a muscle that atrophies.
Exactly. Your capacity to simply sit with difficult things shrinks over time.
Because you're always moving, always turning up the car radio.
Because you have no practice tolerating your own messy, unprocessed discomfort, it becomes an automatic reflex to dismiss it when you encounter it in other people. Their raw, unpolished truths mirror the exact vulnerabilities you are sprinting away from internally. You cannot tolerate the mess in them because you cannot tolerate the mess in you.
So you deploy your defenses. You finish their sentences, you offer your 3-step action plans, you politely nod while remaining completely unaltered. And the consequence, like we discussed earlier, is that they stop bringing you their real selves.
They retreat. They don't fight you. They just quietly close the door.
Which completes the loop. The more people you dismiss, the less honest, challenging feedback ever reaches you. That heavy architecture protecting your ego goes months, maybe years, without ever being tested by anything real.
You end up living inside an echo chamber of your own making. But the scariest part of this section is how the author describes the feeling of that isolation. From the inside of the loop, this isolation doesn't feel lonely. It feels like clarity.
It feels like clarity. Wow.
It feels like you have finally curated a life surrounded only by people who agree with you. In reality, you're just surrounded by people who have calculated the cost of disagreeing with you and decided it wasn't worth the effort.
Oof.
From the inside of a heavy defense system, profound isolation and profound clarity look absolutely identical.
Here's where it gets really interesting. If we're caught in this loop of fast answers, constant motion, and false clarity, how do we break it? What does real listening, both to others and to ourselves, actually feel like? Because if it doesn't feel like that sharp, fast, competent clarity we're used to, what is the sensation we should be looking for?
The author provides a beautifully counterintuitive answer. Real listening feels almost boring in the moment.
Boring. I mean, that's not very romantic.
It isn't. It's not a dramatic, cinematic thunderclap of insight. Real listening is characterized by unhurried, undefended attention. Because you aren't mentally preparing a rebuttal, you aren't solving a problem, and you aren't trying to shape their story into a useful lesson, there is a distinct lack of momentum.
Huh.
And because you're stripped of all those familiar protective tasks, the primary sensation is a faint, lingering discomfort.
The text calls it the discomfort of not knowing yet what you think.
Yes, that specific discomfort is the gold standard. It isn't a sign that the conversation is failing. It's the biological signal that real listening is finally happening.
Wow.
And the same rule applies internally. Making real contact with your own truth rarely arrives as a sudden epiphany. It arrives quietly. It asks absolutely nothing of you except to stay in the room a little longer than feels convenient, to let the difficult thought finish its sentence in your own head, instead of cutting it off at the part you already know how to handle.
Let the sentence finish. Which leads us to the ultimate diagnostic tool the author leaves us with, the one metric that exposes all of our hiding places: speed.
Speed is the nervous system's biggest tell.
Let's translate this into an actionable mental audit for the listener. Think about your partner or your best friend or a colleague. Think about the one specific topic they bring up that instantly makes you want to look at your watch, change the subject, or offer a rapid-fire solution. That specific urge to speed things up, that's your X marks the spot. That is where your scaffolding is hiding.
The reach for speed is incredibly reliable because the body cannot lie about what it is protecting. Your mind is highly skilled at generating rational excuses for why you need to end the conversation, like I'm just too busy or this topic isn't productive.
We rationalize it.
But the body knows. The truths you're avoiding the most fiercely are standing directly behind the subjects that make you want to change them, fix them, or explain them away the fastest.
If a subject genuinely bores you, it's usually just unimportant. But if a subject makes you reach for speed, that's the sound of the nervous system slamming the door shut.
Yeah,
So we've covered a massive amount of psychological ground today.
we really have.
We've seen how dismissing someone else's story and avoiding our own internal pain are flexes of the exact same muscle. We've mapped out the architecture of our identities and seen how it treats new, humbling truths like biological threats. And we've learned how speed and efficiency are often the ultimate disguises for fear. Armed with this intense diagnostic information, what's our next move?
The most relieving part of this entire text is its conclusion. The author explicitly reassures us that none of this requires you to become a completely different, perfectly undefended, highly evolved person by tomorrow morning.
Thank goodness, because the idea of voluntarily letting all my scaffolding collapse by Tuesday sounds exhausting and, frankly, completely unsustainable.
Right, it would be a huge shock to the system. Instead, the text asks for one small, repeatable act of noticing. The next time you're in a conversation and you feel that familiar physical relief when someone disagrees with you, or the next time you feel the overwhelming urge to move really fast past your own internal discomfort, do not judge it. Just notice it.
Just notice.
Notice that the relief and the urge to speed up are pointing at the exact same hidden wound.
We just need to notice the contraction. Notice the exact moment the mental predictive text kicks in.
That's step one. What you choose to do with that information afterward is a separate journey. You don't have to fix the defense mechanism today. You just have to start observing your own speed.
It goes back to our very first point. We pride ourselves on being those sharp, fast conversationalists who already have the perfect answer chambered while the other person's mouth is still moving. We view our quickness as a gift of efficiency to the people around us. But this essay forces us to ask, what if our quickness is actually just a wall?
It's a wall that is highly effective at keeping us safe, but guarantees we remain entirely unchanged.
I want to leave you with a final thought today, a sort of challenge to mull over as you step back into your daily routines. We've established that the discomfort of not knowing what you think yet is the hallmark of true presence. So ask yourself, Wait, what relationships in your life might completely transform if you simply allowed yourself to be useless, unhelpful, and undefended for just 5 more seconds in your next conversation? What might happen if you turned off the predictive text in your mind, silenced the car radio, and just let them finish the sentence? Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We'll catch you next time.